with Eran Zinger, which focuses on these issues for Hebrew-speaking audiences. But unfortunately, Eran was called away on an urgent matter. He's currently on an international flight, and he regrets not being here. He promises he will join us as a guest host in the future. In the meantime, I'm very, very pleased that we have our guest speakers, Samach Salaimeh, columnist and founder of Arab Women in the Center, and Jack Hooley, journalist and commentator on Arab society for Haaretz and Radio Ashams. Today we have an opportunity for a conversation about the opportunities and challenges that the second elections of 2019, the second general elections of 2019 present for Arab society in Israel. In particular, after the breakup of the joint list and unprecedented, historically low Arab voter turnout in the April elections, what do these second elections present for Arab parties and leadership? And how do these second elections change questions about the role of the Arab electorate and Arab parties for Jewish parties and for Jewish-Arab political cooperation? This discourse has been gaining significant attention, both positive and negative, as very divisive discourse in the first campaign, called into question in the lead up after the second elections were called, after the results and before the second elections were called. And since then, it's been an open question of what it will look like towards September 17th. So we are lucky that Jack Hooley has literally just emerged from a press conference on the status of the reunification of the joint list. And I thought we'd start by asking him to speak about that process, what the current status is, what the issues are, and then we'll turn the same question over to Samach Salaimeh to give her insights about this very complex and interesting issue. Jack, can you update us on the press conference?
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for hosting me, and thank you all. And I hope my English is good for you to understand, because from the morning until now I just speaking Arabic and Hebrew and just trying to translate what I heard today. Even I'm very nervous about what I heard now in the press conference. So we accepted that the joint list will be rebuilt this week, but what we heard before 1 hour from now, that the negotiations between the parties and has failed. So until now we don't have a joint list in the Arab society. Hadash and the Islamic movement, Balad and Tal, it's the party of Ahmad Tibi, they didn't agree to be in a joint list until now, because there's they didn't agree for the 12 how to say it, Samah, maybe help me now, the seat number 12, the seat number Balad says we need the seat number 12 in the joint list, but Hadash said it's our seat in the 12, and Balad take the 13th seat. But until now, it's very difficult negotiations, and they didn't agree. So we don't know if we have a joint list in the in 2 weeks from now. But the atmosphere is difficult atmosphere, and we don't know that the parties will agree even in 2 weeks to be in a joint list again. But they also understand, I think, that if they don't have a joint list in 2 weeks from now, I think the Arab citizens will not go to vote in 17 in September, and it's very difficult issue for them, because they feel that there's no main issues that they can. There's no, how to say it. They don't have the trust in the joint list and the parties until now, and because of that, we don't know if the Arab citizens will go vote more than what they voted in April in the last election.
Can you just, for people who may not be familiar, can you do a quick summary of why the joint list broke up, and how the second elections have been a second chance to bring it together, and why 2 weeks from now is so important.
Because in the election in 2015, they succeeded to make a joint list, the four parties, and they have 13 seats in the Knesset, 13 Knesset members, and it was a very success tactic, if I can say it, in 2015. But in the last election, I think that ego issues, and they didn't agree for so many issues that I didn't think it's شو بنسميها عقرونية أساسية سماح
values,
principles. And so until now, I think there's no values that they can't say. It's very difficult for us to be in the joint list. I think just if they agree for the 12 seat and in the 12 seat and 13 seat, it will be okay. But I think it's ego issues and so many difficulties inside the parties themselves. They didn't agree to be in one joint list until now.
So Samah, what do you hear about the process of trying to reunify after the breakup? There was the list broke up prior to the April elections, which many people attribute low voter turnout to disappointment with this inability to stay united. Shortly after the results came in, there was, shortly after second elections were called, there was great momentum, a lot of enthusiasm around saying that the list will reunify. But as Jack has said, this is proving harder, even though there's agreement that it's necessary, it's proving harder to actually do. Can you speak about the process, the committee that has been called to try to do it, and what's taking so long?
Well, I think the series of failures started before the current election, or when Netanyahu declared that we will re-elect or go again to vote. It started with the disappointment from the first election in April, that we have high expectation to go to this election with this very brutal, I think, right-wing government. It was a matter of time or a few days, and we will celebrate the reunited joint list. And they failed to give us this dream, or the very modest achievement as a joint list. And we faced the election in April with two parties, and the audience or the voters punished actually the leaders, because it was very clear, simple demand that they couldn't deliver their people. And the punishment, we saw the results, the miserable results. We lost 5 seats in the Knesset. Actually in the streets, in the Facebook, Twitter, all the public debate, it was like, you disappoint us. So we had like a gift from heaven, actually, from Bibi Netanyahu and Lieberman again, to fix things, and they failed again and again. And we were after the declaration of the re-election, we were so happy. So it's like a second chance to fix things, and they failed again. Here we are, 2 months after, we are facing the same problem of who will be in the 12th seat, who will be in the 13th seat, who will lead, and what we'll do with the money afterward, which is, for the Arab population, it is silly, and we are so angry about this because we are facing the state law, we are facing Trump administration, we are facing the dangerous right-wing upcoming government, and here our leaders are stuck in this room and speaking about money and seats and prestige and ego and honor, and for us as the audience, and especially for the women, because this reconciliation or advising committee, and I don't know who choose them. They don't have any women in their seats. I think there are 12 or 17 men old men who left behind women and young people, and they didn't really hear what we really need. So they failed us. And what's happened this afternoon, as Jackie reported, it was like complete disappointment for the Arab vote.
So there's an advisory committee that was selected, hired, appointed to help mediate the challenges of reunifying the list among the parties.
Yeah.
And this
and they choose the parties didn't agree to about the seats. They think that this committee will help them to they get up in higher tree, like they said, and they need this ladder to be to came back to their base. So they think that these people, there's academic and old men, everybody has known them in the Arab society. They help them to be together, and they give them how to build the joint party again, and all the parties agree for that. What happened? And after they say, okay, we give you this list, and Hadash have 5 seats in 12, I think, seats, and Balad, they give them just 3 seats, and also for the Islamic movement, I think they have 4 seats, and for Ahmad Tibi, 3 seats. But all the problem now in 2 seats, number 12 and number 13. This is all the problem. All the joint list just based in this small issue, and this is very disappointed for especially for the voters, that they accepted that in the 13 before 1 month even they have agreed for a joint list, and now we will be in the middle of the very aggressive campaign against the right wing, against Netanyahu's government, and I think it's very disappointing that we don't talk about Netanyahu and about his policy. We're talking about 12 seats and 13 seats and something like that.
So in 2 weeks, all the parties have to submit their final lists.
Yeah.
At this point, let's say the time does its magic and puts pressure, and there is some kind of a joint list. We expect something will be submitted. Do you think the momentum, it's possible to build the momentum and the engagement of the Arab voter at this point on this basis of unification?
This is a question for me or for Jack?
No,
I think it's for both of you.
Samah will answer.
Yeah. I think it depends on the campaign that they launched, and if they did make it and rebuild the joint list and have this celebration, and they apologize actually to the audience and the people and say, like, from now on we are focusing fighting the right-wing campaigns and against Lieberman, Netanyahu, and the Jewish parties, and they will regain the trust step by step from the audience. We have simple people, most of the Arab population are really involved and symptomatic, and the emotional component of how we vote is very important. So if we see this naive, beautiful picture of 4 leaders from 4 parties, it might help, okay? But I can't ignore that the women and young people and the educators, the people who are educated and intellectual elite of the Arab society know what's happening behind the closed doors, and the taste of the bad taste and the bad blood that have been sown in this scene. It was awful and ugly, and some people claim that we have to boycott this whole messy process and just leave them alone and look for our hope in different area. So it depends on how they build their campaigns strategically, and it was supposed to be very aggressive, very positive, very powerful campaign to regain the trust of the voters.
No,
You know, in this after the election, we think that it will be very easy for the parties to agree because the election was very clear about how every party have how to say it شعبيتها سماح the population in the Arab society. Yes, it's very clear that Hadash it's the most it's very powerful party in the Arab society. And after that we have the Islamic movement, Balad, and the TB that he said I can alone be in 6 or 7 Knesset members, and it was.
And ended up with 2 seats actually.
With two. So we think that it's very easy for them to understand and to go out for the people. Okay, we understand. We know that you are very disappointed, and now we're going to a new joint list. But they didn't. It was very difficult. It's very disappointed for me. I think for Samah, for everybody that is not in the parties, inside the parties. Just we needed to see another joint list, a new journalist, and to just say to the people, go vote and move on. And it's not happened until now.
I just want to say that we have some questions coming in, but we're going to get through a couple of initial questions, the 3 of us, and then we'll open it up. We'll have plenty of time for Q&A. Just to set the stage of the major issues that are part of this second elections.
But I do want to add something. Maybe it will come up with a question about the Arab voters, the Palestinians who vote for the Jewish parties or Meretz and the right-wing parties, which now are trying to reunite the Labour Party with Meretz, that they leading now this shared or joint Arab-Jewish lists, and which is very, very attractive for the Palestinian voters who were disappointed from their leadership. And we saw what's happened with Meretz the last election, when they have 2 Arab candidates in the first 5, in the opening 5 Knesset members and they win. So it was 40% of their candidates were Arabs, and this thing sells, and people vote for Meretz and leave behind the Arab party, which was a new thing that we show. So in April, I expect that we'll see the same scenario again if we didn't have the joint list.
And I think it will be also open door for guy like Amir Peretz. Avi Gabay is very so I think Amir Peretz will get back to the Arab society, also Meretz. So I think so many people will vote for the Labour Party and for the Meretz. And now we're talking about Arab Jewish new party. I don't know if it will be succeeded. And in this Saturday, another academic people will try to publish a new party even. And so many parties, and also what we say that Zionist parties will go for the Arab society. And if they see even the voters in the Arab society, they see there's no joint list, there's no agree for between the parties, so they will, maybe I think Samah agree, that will go to vote even for the Labour Party or for even the Likud party, because it's a government party. So it's very difficult, but I think the main issue will be how many people will go out to vote. If we succeed to make it 60%, because in the last election I did have it's 49, and it's very difficult for the yeah.
Right. So the last election, it was historically low turnout at less than 50%. And of those that voted, so 28% of the votes went to non-Arab parties. So I wanted to ask, and this is in an election campaign where the legitimacy of Arab political participation was very much thrown around as a campaign, as a divisive wedge among, say, the right-wing parties. They were making the choice Bibi or TB. How did that impact the Arab voter motivation. How much did that, do you think that that affected the number, the way that what the Arab electorate wants to see from Jewish parties? And then the discourse of Jewish-Arab political cooperation has changed a lot since the first campaign, with a lot more of the Jewish party leaders saying that the Arab electorate has to be part, that the Arab citizens have to be part of the political process. But we have yet to be seen what the next campaign is going to look like. What do you think that the Arab electorate wants to see from the Jewish-led parties? And what are the issues these are two separate questions. And what are the issues outside of the joint list that may have affected low voter turnout? Maybe, Jack, you can take the first part. Maybe Samach, you can take the second part. So what do you
I think, first of all, we have to say that the national law that was, the Knesset agreed, and before, I think it's last year.
July.
As so many people said in the Arab society that, okay, if you have the national law, we don't need to be there even in the Knesset, and it's very tough issue for them. Okay, it's a Jewish state, and so we don't want to be there. We want to play the democratic in the democratic Israeli democratic. So we leave the Knesset, and it's very clear sound. We have it in the Arab society, but in the parties they said no. We must be there, and more powerful parties to engage and we try to follow this national law and to make it change in the Knesset. So I don't know how many people will now try to they have to think about, okay, we go to the Jewish parties, we go to the to vote in this election because we need to change. And I think that so many people needed or wanted to be in the Knesset to be to try to make something how to say it, نؤثر حنان influential in the Knesset. But I think in this election, if there's no joint list and the parties didn't succeed, it will be very tough to encourage the people in the Arab society to go and to vote, because they didn't believe in the other parties, even in the labor parties or in merits. It's very difficult for them.
So, Samach, yes.
I think that we are not stupid as Arab voters. We know the sentimental things, and we know that the campaign against the Arab voters and the delegitimization of the Arab voters is that it leads actually the last campaign of the right-wing campaign in the last election. But I was really disappointed this week to see the awful, really ugly campaign of Kahol Lavan, blue and white wing, which is supposed to be the alternative.
Can you explain what that campaign?
Yeah, claiming that Bibi Netanyahu joined the fascists in his list, and the second fault that he did, he agreed with the Arab to go again to re-elect. So they combined the fascist right wing that Netanyahu joined them or opened the door for the Likud for them, and the second thing that Netanyahu actually agreed with the Arab party. So it's like hidden message that the Arab are fascists and the Arab are not legal or not legitimized as society. We are 20% of the population, and if someone who want to lead or dream to lead this country forward don't see that and don't act or don't send that message to the Arab population that you are part of what's happening, you are potential partners or collaborators and people who can be influential on the next government or the next regime, we get the message that we are not there, and are not a part of this game. So we have to do two things. The first thing, that what Jackie says, some people are sick of what's happening, sick of this scene, and they give up the Israeli democratic game, and they don't want to be part of what's happening inside the Israeli society, and they rise up the white flag saying that this is Zionist thing, that we will never be part of what's happening, we will never change the Jewish mind. The second option that I see, that most of the people around me, because I live in Share Society, you know, Waht al-Salam Neve Shalom, it's an Arab Jewish community. We are right-wing activists, but we see that it's possible. For the last 40 years, we live together and we manage our life together, and peace is really possible, and we can handle our community and our democratic process, and we can see why it's not happening outside. So most of the Arab population do want to be part of what's happening, and they are. We have these voices of the independent, academic, activists, and they want to replace the current leadership in the Arab society. And their goal or their main message, that we could be part of what's happening around us. We of course have our limitations, and we cannot be in the army, we cannot be in the military, but we do. Talking about equality, we do talk about being a first-class citizen, to cancel the state law, and to be active in what's happening and not to give up. So the debate for me as peace activist, as feminist, is between these two approaches, and it's really depend again on the campaign and the strategical plan that our leaders put on the table. We did not mention the main issues that concern the Arab society. It's not only poverty and equality and economic empowerment of the Arab society and gaining more and more budgets from the government. It's the illegal weapon industry, the violence in the Arab society, the employment, and everything related to in the integration in the Israeli economic market. And we didn't see any strategical plan, neither from the Zionist Jewish list, and not, of course, as we see, the impotent joint list.
These issues.
What we feel, and I think what Samah said, that the Arab citizens are good for vote, but they are not. They can't be inside, the small kitchen to be involved in the cabinet. Not even for security issues. I don't think about this, but if you're talking about violence, if you're talking about building, if you're talking about education, we just we need to be involved. Even when you're talking about programs and what you think about, to not to come with us for the Arab citizens. Just you have this how to say it, you have this dice and you just eat it and you can't even be involved for the first the first section to be involved to how to make decisions in this state. And this is very important issue that I think the state of Israel until now it didn't have the strategic decision that the Arab citizens will be involved, how to make decisions, not just to be مطيع. شنو نسميها مطيع يا سماح؟ To obey the laws of the state of Israel. Yes.
So are you saying that we started talking very little about this concept of Jewish-Arab political cooperation, one that was seen as completely delegitimized in the headlines leading up to the April elections, and then right after we saw softening. There was a rally by the opposition before new elections were called, where Kahol Lavan invited Ayman Odeh to speak from the main stage, indicated some kind of move towards a recognition that the opposition needs to work together. Once new elections were called, we've seen other Jewish leaders like Amir Peretz speaking to Arab audiences, saying that Arab citizens must be part of Israel's political future. And yet, what I hear from you is saying, okay, there's a level of statement, which may be seen both as very welcome, but also politically expedient, and that there's issues that we can already be working on today that aren't necessarily political, but would show can make forward movement among Jews and Arabs towards benefit, that are beyond closing gaps. Is this, do you feel like this is A, accurate, and B, do you feel like this is this represents some of the discourse within Arab society about the current extensions towards political cooperation by the few extensions that we've seen by Jewish-led parties?
I think you summarized that beautifully. Like this is like simple to say, but it's very hard to deal with this issue and to decide what we'll do in September 17th. But I do think that most of the people, despite the aggressiveness and the approach of this, the majority of the Israeli society toward the Palestinian voters still see the potential influence in the Israeli politics. Even after 70 years of being like in the opposition, which will and I believe that we'll stay there for a while, but they still believe that this is platform of make their voices heard and to change some things, like if they have this big influence or big party in the Knesset. And they did, most of the people, I think, at least 50% of the Arab population didn't give up yet. And we see that dangerous, like how's the right-wing activists really want to discourage the Arab voters to go and to be part of this thing. I think in the last 30 minutes, we are dealing with the election inside Israel, leaving the hard, unsolved issue of the occupation, behind the walls, the separation wall. And this is something that cannot be vanished from the agenda inside Israel, because any party, like the four parties agree about this, that we need in the government someone who speak about some kind of peace solution or peace process or any kind of movement, and stop the settlements and to break the siege on Gaza and all this hard big issue. This election seemed very, very small and irrelevant, but for the Arab voters, it's really important. I know that the everyday issue is very important, but you can give millions of dollars for the Arab municipalities, but when you see this, very sad, ugly, and bloody pictures coming from Gaza or the checkpoints, we will stay there and we will demonstrate. And this is really still the painful issue, that what's happening in the settlements, what's happening in the West Bank. And we see the dangers. It's a really big thing, that the deal of the century, and Trump administration is becoming very, very aggressive, because this like have 2 years of change or before the American election, and the Israeli government really want to make a lot of achievements in this open window with this very positive supported regime of Trump, and they want to use it as much as they can. And the Palestinian people are facing this, the consequences of this cooperation. One hint, and I think sign of the involvement of what's happening on the Palestinian side, we as activists, we know that the Palestinian Authority want to be involved and trying to be involved and influence the Arab voters inside Israel. They don't have the right to vote, but they do want to be part of this, to start to, and they, Mahmoud Abbas, for example, and his government and his committee of, how they call it, the committee of Tansiq, what's it? Tansiq, it's like a steering committee of Israel. They want us to be part of the political game, and they encourage actually the recent joint list that Arab Jewish joint list that Jackie speak about with Abraham Burk and Talab al-Sani, which is like Arab Jewish political.
But what it is important.
Wait, yeah. I want to before we go on, I just want to invite people to start. I want to start inviting people to send questions, and then please explain. Just because I feel like you're speaking about many big issues, to define a little bit this new party, and what kind of discourse why there's a feeling for a need for a new party, and how Arab society is responding to pressure, to outside pressure from the Palestinian Authority, whether it's seen as a good thing or a bad thing. Meantime, please send questions to my email, lirons@jdc.org, to Michelle, who you RSVP'd to at this call, or by using the chat function, Michelle as the host. So please explain this new party and the response to the to outside pressure, whether that's welcome or not, because that's a very complicated. As far as Arab citizens have national family connections and a shared identity with Palestinians across the border, there's also been a long road of addressing your Arab citizens' own internal issues and pursuing equal rights as citizens and pursuing access to economic opportunities that is long running. How does the nation-state law, the second elections, the polarized discourse that has emerged recently after a number of years of investing in closing economic gaps affect this relationship now that the Palestinian Authority is trying to weigh in? That, and then maybe Jack.
Okay. First of all, I think it's even for Americans and on everybody how to understand it, because we are Palestinians. We are a narrative. Our narrative is a Palestinian, but we are citizens of Israel. So we have special needs for us as citizens in Israel, but we can't, look about what happened in the West Bank and Gaza. Said, okay, it's Palestinian Authority responsibility and the Hamas, and we didn't care what is going on there. The Arab society are not involved in the political issues and the political decisions for in the Palestinian Authority or even in PLO or in Hamas, but we are very involved, mostly about citizens' issues. And what Samah said, if something happened now in Gaza, you see people go out and say stop the war. But in the Arab society, in the parties, I don't think so that the Palestinian Authority can make something or the move to, maybe they can make to push in some of the parties and some of the Knesset members, but they can't decide for us what we needed inside the political issues in Israel. So the talking about an Arab Jewish party, a new party, what Samah said about Avraham Burg and Talab Sani and Didi Zucker and so many people, I think that the Arab society goes forward the Jewish majority, and we need this relationship and to translate for in the Knesset. But I think that the majority, Jewish majority, they didn't think about this corporation. They just said to go toward the right wing and more to right the decisions. So I think if the Jewish Arab Party want to succeed, they didn't. I think the first step will be for in the Jewish majority and not for in the Arab society, because if the Arab society sees its succeeded party and they have the chance to be in the Knesset, they will be forward and they will vote for this party. But what we think that it's everyone in the Arab in the parties, even in the Labour Party on merits, even on now the Arab Jewish new party, we looking for the Arab society as bank of voters, but we can't. They didn't go for the majority, Jewish majority, and tell them, okay, come vote for us and be together in real relationship and cooperation to make something new in the Arab society and in the state of Israel, the political issues. And I think that the Arab society looking for this, and they said, okay, if you want to go on, so just try to give me a hope that something will succeed, and just not come to me in the election and just to be vote.
I do agree. Like, it's the same thing with Barak, for example, coming again, as candidate, and he can't gain the trust of the Arab voters, even if we have like so-called left wing or want to re-involve or revive the peace process. But we say when he was elected like as direct election as prime minister, 90% of the Arab voters voted for him, and they were appointed with the second intifada and killing 13 Arab citizens in 2000 under his regime. And he cannot, declare now and say like, I was sorry, I was wrong, and give me another chance. Like we are naive but not stupid. Okay, so we know our partners. We know that I do agree with Jackie that we are a little bit tired of being the potential voters, easy vote, and to say like you will have benefits and you will have economical benefits, but if you participate, we aim higher. And I think the Israeli society, and we know that the Israeli society, the majority of the Israeli society, going for the last 20 years for the right, and we read the map. So in the left, we say we stay with the remains of the Labour Party, few very weak, injured Meretz party, and Hadash and the Palestinian. So we have to. I do agree. We didn't figure the equation yet. That we have to find some kind of collaboration and a coalition between the Arab voters and the right, or the remains of the left wing in activists in Israel. This is in this election. If we have any kind of achievement, this kind of dialogue on the table, and it's became more and more legitimized, and we see what's happened in the Meretz election, for example, when South
Meretz is left. Meretz is left wing, social democratic, very left of Labour.
It have to be Arab Jewish leader and co-leaders, which is it's something new in the political map in Israel, and it's became more and more a common thing. It's not popular. It's we cannot do this election. But when we start thinking in that approach, I think the next election will be definitely see less meanings Arab and Jewish joint list.
We have a question for Jackie. So I'll just preface it by saying the joint list is comprised of Hadash, Tal, Balad, four previously Arab-led parties that united all very different ideologically. In the April election, in the 2015 elections, that was a joint list. In the April elections, this split into two lists.
Two parties, Hadash and Tal, and Balad and Ram, it's the Islamic movement.
Right. And then there's a question, what are the chances that Balad now, given the difficulties of reforming the list, will abstain from running, similar to what former MK Ghatas called for in an op-ed last week, and there'll be a Hadash Islamic TB ticket?
I think that Hadash Islamic TB ticket, I think it's a real scenario, but TB, I think knows that, let's say it like that. If Hadash and the Islamic movement will go on just in these two parties, I think it will be very difficult for their voters for the Islamic movement and the Hadash movement, that we don't agree for this party, and they don't go to vote. And now I think it will be a very tough issue for Ahmed Tibi how to say where I will go, because Ahmed Tibi and Balad is very difficult. But I don't know. I can't gambling for this because we have a political issue. But I think there's now a negotiation between Tibi and Balad and the Islamic movement and Hadash. But I think in the end, if the Balad will be in the same base and the same what they decided yesterday, that if they don't have the joint list, they will go alone for the election, or maybe we said, okay, this time we don't need the Knesset. Maybe we will work in the Arab society, in the villages, and so many and so many issues. Rebuild our movement, but we don't need the Knesset. So I think TB, I don't have so many chance just to be with Hadash and the Islamic movement, but I think it's very difficult for them to encourage the voters to go out and to vote, because I think in this scenario, Balad and the other parties that they didn't agree for this parties for Hadash, the Islamic movement, and the Tal. They said, okay, we don't need to vote. So it's I think it's very dangerous scenario for the three parties, because I don't think they have either they can't pick 10 or 11 seats in the Knesset, and it's very tough for them to bring voters for in 17th in September.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Another question. How do you reconcile the fact that so many budgets went to Arab society under a right-wing administration with the difficult discourse that emerged under campaigns? And how does Arab society, what is the discourse in Arab society about this contradiction? Is there awareness of these investments?
First of all, it's Netanyahu's government believe in the economic peace, everything related to the Palestinians, including the Israeli citizen. Like, he is a capitalist and he knows the labor and the power of the and how it's important to for the Israeli economy to engage and to integrate the Arab workers. So it's kind of win-win situation. And after 20 years of governing, like in the right-wing government, they cannot blame the Arabs for what's happening inside the Arab society. So they knew now that we have a very severe problems with poverty, with unemployment. We have higher education rate going up and out every decade and we do our homework. So the Israeli society have to recalculate the road and the economic road, and we're supposed to be part of this. So it's not like we begged for that. This is like win-win situation, and Netanyahu really believe in that and understand that very well.
And we are citizens. If the government give us money, we are citizens. We are not strange here. We are native citizens in this state, and it's very clear for us that the government must pay for their citizens. We are not a security problem. We are citizens in the state of Israel.
Exactly. So you behave yourself like so far. So maybe we continue for the last 10 minutes. Because I will have to leave in 5 minutes, but I think that we did our job, and this is something that have to be the Israeli government have to deal with, the house demolition issue, the violence. This is something really severe, and we can't blame the victim anymore. And we know what's happening in the international community when we advocate in the COE and in the European Union, and we tell the story of like that we did a lot of achievements, and the Israeli government still don't accept us as equal citizens. So the Israeli government respond to that in different ways, including the empowerment or economic empowerment. The second thing that I think it's kind of it's not a rumor, but spending millions or milliards of dollars on the Arab society, it's a myth. We have very intensive and very devoted civil society movement who works for 30 years in order to get to that point that the Israeli government now for its benefit have to invest in the Arab society, and we are fighting for every penny. So it's not happening like from anywhere. It's ongoing battle, and we see what's happening with budgets that were approved by the government, and now they cut the budget again from bureaucratic things. So So that this myth or this celebration of closing the gap, the economic gap, we are far from there, and the civil society organizations leading this struggle and enforce actually the government to do well to them. So it's ongoing battle, and we now, the difference that we now speak loud and advocate, and we go outside the country to the international community to send this message, what's really happening to 20% the Israeli citizens.
Okay, we have 3 more questions. I'm going to shoot them all out because we only have 7 more minutes. And 5 more minutes.
The audience is waiting outside.
What will it take more Jewish voters to be able to accept Arab parties in the coalition? And then for you, Samah, do you think something will be done on the issue of public safety in Arab society going forward, regardless of what emerges from the election?
I didn't understand your question for me.
Yeah.
For you, what will it take for more Jewish voters to accept Arab parties in a coalition?
I think, to be in the coalition, it's a very difficult issue, because to be in the coalition, it's also a peace and war question, a strategic. If you be in the coalition and to be a part of the government, yes, you have your responsibility, even for if the Israeli government says, okay, now we go to blow out in Gaza and in Ramallah. And I think the most effective model until now, I don't know what will happen in 15 years, but what happened with Rabin government, that we are outside the coalition, but the Arab parties say yes and vote yes for every decision that it's make good for all the citizens, especially for the Arab citizens, and even for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So if now Netanyahu, something happened and he says in 1 year, I have agreement with the Palestinian Authority for peace agreement, and even if the Arab parties are outside the coalition, they will vote yes, and they will vote for this agreement, because it's very important for them. So it's to be in the coalition inside and outside. I didn't think it's a very important issue, but it's more important that the government and even the prime ministers and the ministers, that just to try to say, okay, we looking for you as citizens of Israel and not a security problem, that every year we must think about how to make the Arab more quiet and to be safe in this side, and not as citizens. I understand, for the American people, maybe it's very different, because America is a citizen state. Here in Israel, we said, okay, we are a Jewish state, but we have an Arab inside Israel. You have the Palestinian in the West Bank in Gaza. So you are in the inside of the Arab society. You have Christians, you have Muslims, you have Druze. For me, I think Samah agrees, we all Arabs. So we're just looking for this state, the state of Israel, for Arabs and for the Jews. I didn't think it's, if we're just calling every day it's Jewish state, and we have Arabs in the state of Israel, I think the gaps will be all the time very, very big gaps between us.
I think what Jack is speaking about is this bloc coalition or bloc unit, that like to help the coalition from outside, and we are not ready yet, and the Israeli society especially not ready yet for real partnership or political partnership and governing in terms of Arab Israeli citizen, but I do think that in the last Knesset they start to act as a political party and not as national party with the joint list. And speaking about the joint list, so I saw, for example, that they voted for the Orthodox Jewish parties about the military service for the Jewish parties, and instead they agreed to take another benefits and in welfare and in health Main Street that the also Orthodox minister is from the Yahudut Torah is Haredi. So they start to play the game of politics, and this is something new that we didn't have before the joint list, and they start to use the power, you know, and we see what's happening with Aida Touma in the Gender Equality Committee. She did an amazing job, you know, not only for the Arab women, also for the Jewish women, the Haredi women. So she approved that Arab governor or Arab Knesset member can be good for everyone, and this is ongoing, like live evidence that we can be there. I think Ahmed Tibi also has excellent initiatives and legalized laws regarding all the citizens of Israel, and it's on the table. But it's again about the media and what you hear in the media. So if we have more positive and encouraging media and explore what's really happening inside the parliament, we can you know, close that gap or this ignorance or fear from a politician or Arab politicians who do good for the society, for the Israeli society, not only serving their own people. But I do agree with Jackie that the national conflict, we are two nations, we are not Zionists, we are not Jewish, and we can't be, and we don't want to be. We are indigenous people who live here, born here, and belong here. And the parliament and the government, it's only tool to maintain our existence here. And I prefer to do it peacefully than to fight all the time.
That's an excellent closing note. I know we raised so many big issues: the professionalization of Arab leadership, the headlines versus reality, what might happen on September 17th. We are looking forward to reading your columns, and hopefully we'll have opportunities to go deeper on all those different angles again.
And thank you for hosting us.
Thank you for hosting us. Thank you.
So that I have to leave, but it really was really exciting. Thank you, Jackie, for
Thank you, Samah. Thank you. Thank you.
And see you soon. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. We are unfortunately out of time. Have a good evening.